Good evening, everyone. So I'm just going to get straight to the point. I'm going to read out this report. It's from CNN, but it's being covered in several other sources as well. Just a little piece of dust on my keyboard there. Right, I'm just going to read it out. And as you would expect, I have a number of things to say about this, so keep watching. Here's the report. It's not too long, so bear with me. Activist jailed for 2 years for insulting Thailand's queen. Story by Reuters, so actually it's CNN carrying the Reuters story. Doesn't mention the reporter. Bangkok. A Thai court sentenced a political activist to 2 years in prison on Monday for insulting the monarchy, her lawyer said, after the activist was judged to have dressed as Queen Safida during a street protest the court ruled mocked the royal family. It is a crime in Thailand to defame or insult the king, queen, heir, or regent, with punishment of up to 15 years in prison under what are among the world's strictest lese majeste laws. Chetapon New Saung, 25, was found guilty of intentionally mocking the monarchy by her actions during a Bangkok street protest in 2020, according to her lawyer, Chrisadang Nucharat. He's one of at least 210 activists who have been charged with royal insult in the last 2 years related to protests calling for reform of the powerful monarchy, according to the legal aid group Thai Lawyers for Human Rights, which tracked such cases using police and court records. Reuters was not able to independently confirm these records. The palace, which has repeatedly declined, to comment on the protests, could not be reached for comment on Monday. Ruling monarch King Maha Vajiralongkorn, he's reigning as King Rama X, in November 2020, said when asked by Britain's Channel 4 News about the protesters, "We'd have them all the same." This is very much like, I'm interrupting here, this is much like the attitude his late father took in terms of um, not commenting directly on lese majeste, i.e. the laws that protect them. Uh, Chetapon in October 2020 walked the red carpet at a protest wearing a traditional pink silk dress shaded under an umbrella held by an attendant, while protesters sat on the ground in a manner that Thai traditional culture demands in the presence of royalty. Right. Okay. That's actually her. I'm just looking at the photo. I thought that was actually the Queen. That's actually her. Many interpreted the protest display as portraying the Queen, whom 3 times divorced King Rajalalongkorn married days before his official 2019 coronation. Chetapon has denied the charges all along and said she puts on traditional Thai dress normally, Sadang said. But the court sees it as a mockery and defamatory towards the monarchy, he said, adding that his client, who is transgender, would appeal the ruling. She was sentenced to serve in a women's prison. The court could not be reached for confirmation of the sentence. Thailand's courts typically do not publicize legal proceedings. For decades, traditional culture in Thailand has revered the king. In 2020, political protests against military meddling in government morphed into criticism of King Vajiralongkorn 70, who took the throne after the 2016 death of his widely respected father, who had reigned for 70 years. The protesters contended that the military had justified repeated seizures of power, including army coups in 2006 and 2014, as necessary to defend the monarchy. The government and military have denied the accusation. The protesters have also criticised new powers King Vajiralongkorn assumed after he took the throne, including announcements in the official Royal Gazette giving him direct control of the vast wealth of the crown and at least 2 army units. The palace has not responded to these criticisms and at least 2 army units. That's interesting. Our head of state is basically commander in chief of the entire armed forces. So I'm surprised that's not the same in Thailand. That the head of state would be the in control of. Of course, the situation's different in terms of the history of military coups. There, right? There's a lot to break down with this. The situation in Thailand is one I've been following for years. I haven't made a video for it for some time now. I think the last video I made actually was on the passing of King Rama the Ninth, Bumapom Adulyadej. A few things to say about this. The former king, much like our late queen, was deeply respected by the Thai people, as as Elizabeth II was deeply respected by the British people. But it went into another level. It went into almost worship. I think there's a close symbolism between Buddhism in Thailand and the monarchy. Many Thais saw the late king as basically a deity. Now, I think it is different here with this these recent events. It's very clear the Queen is deeply respected. I mean, in my local shopping centre, just as an example, there's a book of condolence. I've signed it. I done a little respectful bow, sincere. I swore an oath of allegiance to her and her heirs, and I meant that sincerely. People have been signing it, but in Thailand, probably, and this is not to exaggerate, you would see people prostrating in front of a portrait of the monarch. The interesting thing in Thailand, from what I understand, the current king is not as popular as his father. I mean, the laws are still very much there, and there's probably respect because he is the king. But I don't think he carries the reverence that his late father did. And interestingly enough, like Charles, he's been divorced. Now, I don't know what the Buddhist customs on divorce are. I mean, certainly in this country, it took a long time for the church and the monarchy to kind of modernize on that. Um, but that's where the comparisons end because Britain does not have rigid lese majeste laws. Now, I draw attention to this for several reasons. Firstly, there's Republicans in the UK saying that they're being persecuted. I've made that video about the arrests, my thoughts on them, and I've pointed out that they're not being arrested for lese majeste, they're being arrested for breaches of the peace. Now, if someone's quietly holding a sign saying "Not my king," fundamentally I support the right to do that. But if they're holding that sign and let's say going up to a group of, let's say that this line or this procession that's going to Westminster Hall for the lying in state, right now, thousands and thousands of people, if someone with one of those "Not My King" signs decides to go and just kind of hold it in front of them, it's provocative and I think that's not necessary. But I don't agree with arresting them. There was a video in Urdu showing these protesters, about 10 of them, maybe a dozen, and they were protesting. They weren't being disruptive, they weren't being aggressive or anything like that. But I still say it depends on the specific case. Now, that guy in Edinburgh, I've mentioned this a few times, it's attracted a lot of debate. I do not agree with those who are saying, oh, it's harmless. What he done very deliberately, very knowingly. I don't care that he's only 22. He's still a grown man, a young man, but he's a grown man. He went there to cause trouble. He went there to heckle a grieving family. Now, wherever we gloss it over, that's crass. And people can say, oh, it's just directed at Andrew. The king and his other siblings had to hear that. It was absolutely crass, and I don't think it was the right time to do it. Um, there will be pressure on Andrew. That is not going to go away. But due process. Andrew hasn't actually been found guilty in a court of law of anything. Um, some might say, oh, well, he won't face a court of law because he's a senior royal. Well, maybe he should. Maybe if there's sufficient evidence, Andrew has more questions to answer. How the king approaches that is going to be interesting. But certainly, when they're following in the mother's coffin, any decent human being could see that is not the time to be yelling at people. It's just so really, I've no sympathy with him. I've no sympathy for that woman in the Highlands who, on the very day the Queen died, decided to open champagne and come out with the nutty conspiracy theories. Now, I don't condone mob violence, but you know, she needed. What would have happened in Thailand? She would have been arrested. What happened here was the police came to protect her. That's the difference. And I don't say this to be disrespectful to Thailand, but I'm just drawing a difference. And I do think Thailand's lese majeste laws are utterly absurd. I think they're like something you would find. I mean, here's the paradox. Thailand's a constitutional monarchy since 1932, but they've had a far, far more unstable political history than we have. So, context is important, but the existence of lese majeste in Thailand is absurd. And I would respectfully say to Thai royalists, you're more akin to countries like Morocco and the Gulf states than you are to the UK or Sweden or Japan or other constitutional monarchies, because freedom of expression is a fundamental point of democracy. Now, the late king always pardoned foreigners who violated lese majeste, so surely it would be respectful of his memory, his tolerance, to actually get rid of these laws. They're not needed. I mean, in Thailand, like in Britain, the monarchy is deeply, well, in Thailand, it's loved. Why does it need such laws to protect it? It's absurd. Republicans are a minority in Thailand. I don't think that the royal family needs such laws to protect it. I mean, the late king and the current king have both stressed leniency, but of course they can't impose the law. In that sense, Thailand's constitutional, but I'm talking about the draconianism of it. It's absurd. Now, maybe this activist was mocking the Queen. Okay, I don't really believe her claim that, oh, it's just traditional dress. I think it's obvious with the demonstration that's what she was doing. But and I imagine this would have enraged royalists in Thailand. I've seen it. By the way, and I'm just going to say this briefly because I don't want to make a big thing of it. I don't want to give it more credence than it's due. But when I made those videos about 6, 7, 8 years ago, I stand by them, every word. I stand by the principle of them. But those videos were in defending a woman by the name of Rose Ha- Chawari Rose, she calls herself. I've disconnected from her. I don't really care if she sees this video. And Rose, if you're watching this, I don't know what the hell's happened to you. But basically, I defended her at the time because she was being harassed by Thai royalists. She's a Republican, a very outspoken Republican. She came to the UK basically as refuge, as a refugee. Or rather, she was claiming asylum status because she was being harassed in Thailand. Well, she's come out as a Putin supporter, which is sickening. This is the thanks that she's given this country. And people might think, what this got to do with the video? Well, it's not directly linked, but just in case there's crossover, just in case anyone who remembers those videos, I'm just putting it as this as a development. Um, I'm disgusted by some of the attitudes that she's come out with. She's, of course, come out with some very disrespectful comments about our Queen. Now, Rose, if you're watching this, you know full well we don't have lese majeste in this country, but that doesn't give you a right to disrespect the country that has taken you in, that's given you protection. I mean, if you feel that strongly about it, go to Russia. And as for all your rants about the British Empire and so on, again, that's your opinion. Um, and as for your conspiracy theories, all the anti-vaccine stuff, and your views on Putin are disgusting. You fled persecution in Thailand, yet you are spouting out these disgusting comments supporting the Russian dictator. Don't say that you believe in human rights. Don't say you're a human rights activist. You're not. Maybe, in fact, this I should make a video in its own right about this. I might well do it. Um, But anyway, for this video, I digress. That's because honestly, I was disgusted when I saw the sort of comments she was coming out with. So anyway, uh, yeah, I think Thailand's laws are over the top. I think they're absurd. I don't think the monarchy in Thailand needs them, and I think they're weaponized. But I remember when the king passed away there, as you can understand, it was a huge event in Thailand. Um, Days of national mourning, like here. Um, but one thing that Republicans will do is they will look at cases like this and they will say, I mean, if nothing else, to royalists in Thailand, they say this sort of draconianism galvanizes Republicans in other countries because they will say, oh, that's what monarchies do. I mean, it kind of ignores the fact that you get dictators in republics who are just as draconian and in many cases far worse. But um, nobody should be jailed for 2 years for that. That's absurd. Um, and in this country, I don't think people should be arrested for holding up placards. Absolutely not. All I'm saying is they're not being arrested for being Republicans, they're being arrested for breaches of the peace. And I think that's very much context, case by case. Let's see what each case involves. If someone is deliberately being confrontational, that's a different matter. But if they're quietly protesting, it's their right to do it. I would question why they're doing it right now in this mourning period. I think they'd be more tactful to wait. And I said this to the Republic, the main lobby group in this country. I said that I support their right to their views, but I think they should be tactful and wait until at least after the state funeral. Because the thing is, let's be honest, the king, as much as he's been diplomatic, as much as I feel he's carried himself very well, he's not going to have the sort of depth of respect that his mother did. Now, I think he'll be a good king. That's my gut feeling. Charles has been waiting for this for 70 years. It's 70 years of training, effectively. I think he's going to be a good king, but he will have to he will have to get it right because if he doesn't, Republicans will be going out of their way. They will look for any slip up to try and tear him down. So he needs to be very diplomatic. Um, I'm going to round this up, but suffice to say, I think lese majeste is an abomination. It is a violation of human rights. It's absurd. I think in Thailand, though, it will eventually change. I'm optimistic because I think the current king is not as popular. He had a reputation as a bit of a playboy. Um, he's not as popular as his father was, so we may be seeing the ripplings of change in Thailand, and I think that's a good thing. But to Tyrollis, I say you don't need to be worried. I don't think the monarchy is going to go anywhere. I think it's still popular in Thailand, much like it is here. But I would respectfully say the British monarchy's had to change over the decades. Maybe it's time for lese majeste to go out the window if you want to survive. I think you will, but lese majeste has no place in the modern world. We last prosecuted it in seven. We last prosecuted it in 1715. Now, I'm not saying this as a matter of jingoism, like, oh, we're better than you or something like that. I'm just pointing out that no other constitutional monarchy, not just the UK, Denmark, Sweden, Spain, I think Japan, neither, none of them have lese majeste. So Thailand's insistence on holding on to this is strange, especially when the king himself isn't calling for people to be prosecuted. The idea that it protects royal reverence or something, I don't think it's needed because the monarchy is still broadly supported in Thailand. Okay, I'll round it up there, but I do hope the situation there changes. But the Republicans saying that one of these activists said, oh, we're like Putin's Russia. That is absurd. If we were like Putin's Russia, then people holding placards would be dragged away, thrown into prison without trial or in kangaroo court, probably tortured. As it stands, they're arrested and they're booked and they'll probably get fined. Now, that's probably too much. That probably shouldn't happen either. And I personally do have some concerns about the optics of this, but I don't like the way it's being distorted. Like Britain is crushing Republican views. That's not happening. It's not happening. Republic, it's the biggest lobby group in the country. Their website is totally functioning. There's no there's no attempts to censor them. Um, 10 days of mourning, that's it. A 10-day period, and then Republicans can say what they want. They still can, in fact. But is it so much to ask that they show a little bit of decorum at this time? Is that so much to ask? I mean, this is, leading up to the funeral, the state funeral. Probably around the coronation is more appropriate. Anyway, I'll round this up and I'll put a link to that report.